This video I'm going to go over a couple of things. First, I'm going to go over how to manually enter reservation details. So if you book with a supplier that we are not integrated with and you need to put in the details, I'll show you how to do that. I will also go over how to handle situations in which you booked packages or bookings with more than one supplier to get everything booked for your client. So if you use one for the hotel and one for the insurance and one for the transfer, how do you enter all of that? And I will also kind of go over what steps to take to kind of build the invoice for the client. So regardless of what kind of trip or who you booked it through, the trip part of it, creating the trip is the same, and I have other videos on that. So I went ahead and created this trip here beforehand so that we can shorten up this video a little bit, but you can see I have no reservations under that. So that's already created. So the second step, again, regardless of what kind of trip it is, you're going to add a reservation to that. And I'm going to select the reservation type for this. So let's say it's a package, and we will just say GoGo in this example. Even though we're integrated with GoGo, I'm just going to manually put in some booking details just to show you how it would work if we weren't. So you're going to put in your GoGo booking number in here, and you can put in your deposit amount. Now this is not an actual payment that the client made, it's how much they owe to deposit on this trip. So let's just say $600. And the deposit due date, this will default to today's date, but you can certainly change that to tomorrow's date or the next day or whatever the actual deposit due date is, but make sure you enter something in there. Now one question I get from a lot of new users is, why can't I put a price in here? That is by design, and you'll actually enter those down below in the actual components here. So I'm just going to save this as is for right now and click create. So now we've got the reservation created, but we don't have a price under it, nor do I have any of the details down here. So the next step is you need to add reservation components for anything you booked for this booking. So the general rule to kind of follow is that if it has a different booking number or if it was booked with a different supplier, you really want to have that as a separate reservation within the trip. So if you book, let's say, the flights and the hotel with GoGo, and you use a different supplier for the transfers and maybe a third supplier for insurance, in that situation you're going to have 3 reservations under this trip. So now that we're on the GoGo one, I only want to put things I booked with GoGo under this booking number down below. I don't want to include anything else because it'll throw off my revenue by supplier report, because I'm throwing stuff that I booked with other suppliers under this GoGo booking. So anyway, you're going to select the components that you want. So first, I like to put them in order. So the first thing that typically I would book with maybe GoGo would be flights. So I want to add an air component. Now let's just assume that this client has nonstop flights both ways, so there's only 2 flights total. So I added the air, and then I'm going to add the hotel next. And then I'm going to add another air. So now if I scroll down, you can see I've got those blank components, so I just need to fill out. I guess I didn't put the third air in there. Let's put that in real quick. Or the second air, the third component. Alright, so now we've got the air, the hotel, and another air. So I just need to fill this information out. And I won't fill everything out, but I'll fill most of it out to show you what it'll look like. For the carrier and the cities or the airports, you can just use abbreviations, and when you save it, it will recalculate it to the Delta, and ATL will be Atlanta, and so on. And then when it comes to entering the price, generally I recommend that you break down the pricing for each component if you have a breakdown, but you don't need to necessarily break down the cost of individual flights. So if the total cost of their flights is $800, you can just put 800 under this one, and then you could leave the second air component blank. You could add invoice comments if needed. I'm not going to fill everything out, so I'm going to put in my hotel info here, and I want to select the hotel chain here. Now again, I've said this in other videos, but if there is a hotel that you sell a lot of that you want to keep track of that is not in this list, it can be added by any admin. I have videos on how to do that as well, but for now we're just going to select couples here, and we'll just make up a room category. And I think I put number of nights of 6 on that other on the trip screen, so I'm going to put my check-in date, and since I entered the number of nights and the check-in date, it knows the checkout date is the 7th, so it automatically entered that. Let's say the hotel is 3,500, and then for the air, I'm just going to put in my return flight info. And then again, I can leave this price blank since I already entered it on the top one up here. So now I've got everything entered, and I'm going to go ahead and click save. And now we've got a balance of 4,300. Now one other thing, if you're going to have multiple reservations under a trip, you can pick which order you want each reservation to be. So let's say that I want the main package to be on top. I'm going to put number 1 in here because I want it to be the first reservation out of all of them here. So we'll save that. And if you want to at this stage, you could go ahead and just preview the invoice just to see what it'll look like so far. So you can see I've got my flights, hotel, all of that, and total of 4,300, and then terms and conditions down here. However, I'm going to go back to the trip here because I want to add a second reservation to this trip. So let's say that we book transfers separate. So I'm going to say add new reservation. And in this case, I'm going to say this is a transfer reservation, and we'll say we booked that through Reggae Tours. Put in my booking number, put in my deposit amount, my deposit due date, and click create. Now again, I need to put the pricing in here, so I'm going to add a reservation component for my transportation. And then I'm going to enter the actual details for this. So I'm just going to say and then I could put details on what they need to do to find that transfer at the airport in here. And then on this one, I'm going to put number 2 because I want that below my package reservation. So I'll click save here, and my trip cost is going to go up here to $44.60 because we just added $160 to it. Now one thing I didn't enter that I should have on both of these is my commission on these. So let's just say this is, I don't know, $50. And then save, and then of course I should have entered it on my GoGo one as well, and then save. That way when you look at these from the trip, you're going to see the expected reservations. Let's just go ahead and fix this since I didn't enter it in here. And we'll just say this one is 400. Oops. Alright, so now if I preview the invoice, I'm going to have 2 reservations on it, and it's going to show me the individual totals for each reservation. So here's my GoGo price of 4,300 plus the Reggae Tours of 160, giving me a grand total of 44.60 here, and then terms and conditions are down here. Now You may want it to display like this, or maybe you don't want the client to see the individual prices, especially if you pieced everything individually together, like air was booked separate from the hotel, and if you don't want each and every individual price to show like this. Another option you have here is we can go back to the trip, and there's a checkbox here for hide invoice reservation totals. If I check that and click save, and then now if I preview this invoice, it's going to put everything together. So I've got the flight, hotel, flight, transfer, and then one total down here. So that's what that checkbox is for. Now you could also, if you, not in this situation, but if you had a separate reservation for like a service fee and you didn't want it to show service fee here, you could also go into the reservation in which you have the service fee. Let's just say it's in here, and you find your service fee component, and you would check do not show an invoice. A lot of times agents will use that if you have an internal note that you want on here, or you need to add a price in here. You can add an other reservation component and title it with whatever you want, put in whatever price you want, and then you can say do not show an invoice. So it'll include the cost for that, but it won't show it on the actual invoice. So that is how you put bookings in for multiple suppliers, and also how you manually enter booking details. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you.